Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the rank 2 Zerg in the world. Cyril's greatest stunt double. In the red, we have Solar. Facing off against his counterpart, the rank 2 Protoss in blue, the mysterious MaxPax. In a best of 5 Protoss versus Zerg Grand Finals to the newest iteration of Wardi's Monday Cup. Before we get started on this best of the rest showdown, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button. Maybe even subscribe. And we got the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? What was it? It was a little... 1,822 likes on this video, on this cast. And I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. Then the very first probe, bullied out of the base, it just wanted to take a look around. Of course, if he sent it out earlier, it would have blocked the base and really messed up the build order. But MaxPax, I think, very much more enrolled in Classic's kind of doctorate program for Protoss theory crafting, as opposed to Hero's spiritual journey for Forrest Gumpy and Protoss who don't think good. So, much more focused on having his exact build and executing it as well as possible. And while we haven't seen too much of him lately, or ever, I'm actually very interested to see how he stacks up against Solar. The second best, solidly so at this stage, of both their races. A little bit rougher around the edges, and honestly that usually makes for more entertaining gameplay. Hero, again, an outlier in every sense of the word. In fact, MaxPax is almost 13 years younger than him. We know about that much. It's around there. Which... wow. I don't... Meanwhile, the Oracle pointing out the Overlord. It turns its nose up at actually attacking air, since everything's technically on the same plane. Effective. Oh, the Zerglings boxing out. A little bit awkward as the probe slapped down the gateway right before the Stalker tried to get the OV. But energy recharge joins up with even more oracles. And now the team is going to be sent across the map. 2 gases at the natural. Twilight Council behind. We've got the normal fixins. All we're looking for now is a forge in the production tab, and to see how many drones are melted by these first oracles. 0 so far, but gonna split to either side. And the queens, not as agile as they used to be. Literally starting before MaxPax was born, back in the Brood War. But, anyways, how's the back thing? Remember burning CDs? MaxPax probably does. Okay, that's enough. That's enough. CDs. Zerglings in the third base. 3 drones dead. I have to assume an Oracle found some progress, but the Stalker, take it in turn. Warping in a couple more. That pylon will reduce a little bit of mining, but a whole lot of Zerglings moving through. As, unlike the Brood War, workers are pretty smart. And almost concerningly so in many cases. But the Oracles... burninating across the mineral lines. Gonna get some of the transferring workers, the queens. And get off my creep! Oh, you didn't think we'd get it. Oh, I had full confidence, Susan. Thought there was a 40% chance. Yeah, that sounds about right. I don't... sorry. Hive mind. Lair's already... wait, did he see it? Did MaxPax see the lair? No, he didn't have that revelation, as with half the oracles he once did. In fact, it's so important to have that oracle count. He's building another. So, having one at home and one at the front takes out an Overlord, but... Mutas! Sorry. Mutilus is going to be the choice. Weird day. It's only going to get worse. Or better. Matter of perspective. I don't... +1 and blink for MaxPax. And Solar pretty much the moment that the Oracle got knocked down. Now, he was going for the lair much earlier. He could not have anticipated the Oracle going down or denying a scout of the lair. But the most likely, the more often than not strategy, probably 60 or so %, is Hydras. Hydras to deal with the Blink Stalkers. Hydras to hopefully deal with any Stargate units to give you some basic mid-tier anti-air and anti-ground. It's not the easiest thing to use, but it wouldn't be surprising to see a relatively quick lair for those Hydras. But Solar's banking up 800 gas. And he's got a Mutalist den almost done. Which, honestly, MaxPax might be a little suspicious, but on the other side, Solar forces the cancel in the 4th base with the few Zerglings he has. 9 Mutas in production. And MaxPax with absolutely no suspicions. Now, is there +1 melee? No, it's a long way off. There's a stasis, triggers it. And multiple stasis behind. Another reason he wanted to have those multiple oracles, as without the stasis, the Zerglings could easily surround the Stalkers. And even with this many of them, they're a pretty solid counter. We know the Mutas are just flapping across the element of surprise, the most dangerous one in the periodic table. And, yeah, the Stalkers could easily... Well, he's gonna spot the Mutas. He now knows, it's pretty clear, the Mutas flapping around here. And, well, Solar gonna have to manage on both sides. As the APMs ramp up, well, almost 4 digits for Solar. As the Mutas just flap right into the main, MaxPax thinking that was the start of it. But it's, well, technically it is. His probe count being gutted, he warps in a couple Stalkers back at home, just cancels the Templar Archives, which might seem counterintuitive, but he desperately needs the resources, and Archons are not known for their agility. The Mutas at the front, and the only thing really saving him here is the fact the Zerglings don't have +1 and the creep spread has been kept at bay. Solar has 69 drones to just 54 probes after all this, giving him a nice economic lead. The Queen's trying to patch up the Mutas and, well, chasing off of the creep. Collapses, but the last stasis, the one on the high ground that Solar didn't anticipate, will allow MaxPax to salvage this increasingly desperate situation and kind of stop the bleeding. As losing 20 probes and his army, well, that's... there's not much left after that. But the stasis boxed out the Zerglings, froze them in place for long enough that the Mutas can't directly engage. The Stalker's still good enough when they're fighting just against the Mutas, but now +1 is done. The Zerglings, a few transfuses coming through, and Solar's happy to fight. There's 1 Zergling underneath. He says that's enough. It's not. But well, he says it anyways, just flaunting the fact he can in the Protoss without mouse are incapable of doing so. But Solar understanding against just Stalkers, the Mutas are still a very strong choice. It's just, usually you don't get the numbers. But he's reached nearing a critical mass. It's just Stalkers, a few Zealots coming in. Charge is complete, +1 going to be very helpful. But just dueling. MaxPax knows the best defense against Mutas is a desperate but well-executed offense. He needs to keep the pressure on, otherwise the Mutas are obviously going to outrun him. He has a Stargate, he could build Phoenixes. But that's a big investment. You need 3 or 4 Phoenixes before they're really much more than a liability. So, in fact, Solar is warping in even more Zealots. Meanwhile, I mean, Solar is not warping in Zealots. That'd be very impressive. MaxPax is warping in the Zealots. Solar is warping in the Mutas. Even more in production. Some of the Zealots are split off, trying to drag some of this away. He gets on top of the Stalkers, the Glaive slicing through. And with +1, incredibly helpful at dealing with larger amounts of units. But the charge lots will drag some back. The Queen's assassinated on top of the hatchery. And, well, he's focused on fighting the Stalkers. A brawl across the field. And Solar has actually losing several Queens, many Zerglings, and a lot of his Mutas clearly being hung out to dry somewhat. No. The Zealots split off, and MaxPax with quite a controlled defense. And by defense, I mean attacking Solar so he doesn't lose all his probes. A single cannon in the mineral line is barely a deterrent. 4 Stalkers will make it a little more so. Though, he doesn't know how many are behind him. Though he's starting to suspect it's just those 4. Flaps right past. Slices through a few more probes, using his own semi-wall-off in the main base against him. And Solar, with multiple groups of Mutas, now consolidating them. Remember, MaxPax canceled his Templar Archives, thinking that the game was likely going to end one way or another. Or at least he needed those resources for Stalkers. And I still think it was the right call, but there were no great ones in that moment when 10 Mutas are in your base and you have actually no warning. Well, Solar, still, he does not want to let the critical mass of Stalkers build up any further. The Muta count, 27 of them on top of the Stalkers. And 1-to-1, I think the Mutas win the trade with any Zerglings. Now, you don't want to thin out the Mutas too much. Stalkers much better in lower numbers than Mutas. But the Stalkers are going down quickly. and not being replaced nearly as rapidly. The Mutas losing a couple more, but, well, how many? How many Mutas has he lost so far? He's managed them well on multiple sides. Yeah, we're playing this game again. Only 9 of them. What? I'm so far off. I'm so embarrassed right now. Jimmy, edit that out. I was a little optimistic. I thought he was controlling him well. But actually, he just had so much money, he's been sinking all of it into Mutas. I guess it makes more sense when you consider that all of the cents he's making have been just Mutas. Every last drop of Vespene gas. Right up until a few moments ago with the +2 flyer attack upgrades. Phoenix is coming out now as MaxPax finally gets a 4th base online. Fully mining with a decent amount of probes. Another group of Mutas. The double-double, which risky for both sides. Multiple Phoenixes, though, and Phoenixes with more range, more speed, and the ability to attack while moving. More handsome. All right, we'll steal your girlfriend and cut you out of the sky. So, the only downside is you can only really build them one at a time. Whereas the Mutas, 5 in the production tab, joining the 46. Wow. Mutas made out of tissue paper and tears, which does not make for a lot of structural integrity. But he still has 30 on the field. Only 3 Phoenixes, but with the Stalkers, +2, +1 on the ground. Nothing in the air, but double Stargate Phoenix is the choice. And eventually the Mutas have an expiration date. Double-digit Phoenixes, even without range. Oh, he's still making Mutas. Oh, the Zerganity. But the Zerglings in the 4th, a few more Mutas just flapping through. He's trying to play a war of attrition. Solar has 5 bases. MaxPax is clawing onto 4. The Mutas trying to intercept some of the reinforcements. Might be able to get 1 Phoenix. Bit of a consolation prize. And there's nothing happening on the other side. It's just Solar. It's just Mutas. I'm still embarrassed about that. I don't... He's lost so many. But does he have the economy? The mini-map is just streaming across. Zerglings and Mutas. Wherever they can hit. He's not too particular. But the Phoenix count has almost reached double digits. A Baneling nest in production. Any sort of tech switch at this point, even to add Banelings, is a kind of an indicator of desperation. MaxPax might be down 40 supply, but he's certainly ahead in tech. Oh, the Phoenixes. Interestingly, Solar didn't bother with Corruptors. Corruptors are only for kind of boxing out the Phoenixes, but at this point, it's feeling like he could use more than one. Or none, technically. The Phoenixes will pick up and knock down 8 of the drones, and the economic lead being sliced apart by the same unit that's cutting the Mutas out of the sky. And Solar only built the Hydra Den after the Phoenix count already reached a critical level. He's now in the same position MaxPax was. He needs to try to keep the pressure on, because otherwise MaxPax is just going to pick him apart. Unfortunately, the Phoenixes have already reached a critical mass. MaxPax has a 4th base. His army supply is relatively healthy. The choice to go with the direct engagement units as opposed to Templar for Storm or Archons, or Phoenix range, for example, I think has paid off. If he had tried to reach further for the tech, by the time he got to it, he may have been cut apart by the Mutas. But now it's getting a little desperate. Even the Hydras in small numbers are not necessarily safe against the Phoenixes, who can cut them down easily. But MaxPax is coming across the map, which might be a bit ambitious. Cuts a few Hydras apart to start, so that will certainly help things. 1 Archon mixed in, which definitely complicates the Zerglings' lives. Picks up a Queen, knocks it down. Another one cut apart by the Zealots. Phoenixes, Mutas, Zerglings, drones, Hydras, a little bit of everything everywhere. And, well, the Zealots will be eventually whittled down. 10 drones dead. And Solar may survive. But we gotta ask ourselves that question. Have you liked and subscribed? And at what cost? Wow. The army... It is a nearly unmitigated disaster. So Solar has now lost 96 mutas. That has to be a record. Both being able to build and lose that many mutas that quickly. Did we get 100? How many more mutas are left? There's only one. I don't think we'll reach it one way or another. Wow, Solar's just gone. He's got Hydras, Lings, and Banes, but MaxPax is up 40 supply. This is the army you might have wanted earlier, but... no. Taps it out immediately. Solar committed to the mutas, and he knew the moment he had to switch off them was... well, it was... at that point, it was a eulogy, at best. MaxPax holds the line, and that was a remarkably calm defense. He lost 20 probes. I think he was blindsided by the mutas. He wasn't even paying attention. Losing more than 10 probes without pulling him away is not a decision. That's a mistake. But he took it in stride, turned it around, and held strong. And Solar tried to carry the mutas too far. And you can't put a lot of weight on those wispy wings. Not really wispy, more like spindly. Interesting GLHF timing. Solar's like, okay. I like the idea. Good luck, have fun. Thanks, bro. Now say it back. Now say it back. Good luck, have fun. Thanks. At least give him a Diamond League Classic. You too. Jumping in after only minor technical difficulties. But the probe is sent at the beginning of the game. But Solar, with one of the fastest possible hatches, he went hatch before Overlord, making sure the probe could not do its dastardly deeds of blocking the Natchery, but instead will just have to content itself with laser tonguing some minerals and tasing some drones, which I will go into more detail, but I'd rather not be demonetized today. So the drones just... interesting that Solar just commits the drone. Now, players have different philosophies on how they deal with the single probe harass. Some are just, I'm not ever dealing with it. Some will micro each time it gets close. Either way, it's going to be 10 to 20 minerals lost if the probe is controlled perfectly and you don't mess up your build at all at home. But, you know, that's 10 to 20 minerals they can't use for, well, things that you probably wouldn't like. Yeah, that's my top tier commentary. Okay, I told you it was going to be a weird day. To break the fourth wall more than heroes are broken. At the beginning of the day, loading up OBS Studio to record out. Jimmy, what is this? What happened? Why is every audio setting reset? Which, still not sure why. But essentially, rebuilding them from scratch. And I went and I looked at the notebook with like, just trying to record everything. And can barely read the handwriting. But, and really, all it said, all Jimmy had written down. That's it. We already got that. Well, there was, but, so, summary, long story, medium. If it sounds mediocre, let me know. If it sounds horrible, hopefully we'll catch it before you see it or, well, hear it. Or see it with your ears. I can't do anything about the words, but the way the words sound, some more control over. I hope it doesn't become a recurring disaster. We'll see. With our ears. Adept on its way across. And MaxPax? Well, while he definitely intended to block the hatchery, he knows that Solar, if you go for the hatchery before the first Overlord, it does cut into your early economy. Like, look right now, 30 drones versus 34 probes. He's catching up with the first injects. But with some of the drones going... Stop looking at me! It's my job. I don't know. The Oracle. Gonna point out the Overlord. That's most of its early purpose. And then, of course, its later purpose is almost literally everything else. It does almost everything you could need of it. There's a reason that you see not just one, but usually miracles in almost every single Protoss versus Zerg. You want scouting? You got it. You want defense against Zerglings and roaches? You got it. You want to kill some drones? You probably got those as well. Maybe queens, maybe creep tumors, maybe denying creep tumors. Also, stasis ward. Just the threat of the Oracle existing. The Oracle wears so many hats. All right, Team Fortress players, I'm sure, are jealous. The only thing it doesn't do is anti-air. But because it's an air unit, it can point out any air units for the Stalkers. It just turns its nose up at the idea. They do look like the most pretentious unit, do they not? There's a skin where it almost literally... But, and they're purple, which we all know is even more pretentious. But, Oracle recharged. Well, energy recharged, but the effect is the same. Meanwhile, another one. The Queens boxing out of the third base. Adept slipping around the north. Twilight, Blink, and +1 on the way. A Lair's halfway there. And the Zerglings? Well, there's already Overlord speed on the way, which has some implications. But... Oh no, the he didn't leave any Zerglings at home. The Adepts 1, 2, 3, 4. Goes for the 6, 7, 8. I'm very good at reading the counter. 9. Thing is, it's so, like, it's just one at a time, one after another. Quickly, but one after another with the Adepts. And a small mistake can be a near game-losing economic hit. And now, what was likely going to be a strongly timed German taxi build, ferrying the Queens across with an Overlord, is now going to be another strongly timed German taxi build. But this one's real desperate. All right, this is a one-way trip. He's at 50 drones against 65 probes, and MaxPax is still building probes, and that might end up being... Brenda, get in here! Now, scooch! Sorry. The Overlord will ferry the Queens across and provide them with at least a little bit of creep in order to facilitate those transfuses. They gotta be all lubed up for it. Weird day. The Zerglings are working on the Cyber Core and getting suspiciously close to actually taking it down. I think only now is MaxPax realizing the magnitude of the situation. He's gonna recall back, brings one of the Oracles, but we've arrived! The Queens! Mr. Zergachev, break down this wall! The Zerglings are already into the natural, into the main. The Queen's a creep tumor. And with multiple Ravagers to help zone out and knock down some of the shield batteries and cannons, with 4 Queens and plenty of energy, and the creep spreading inside of MaxPax's base. Well, this has gone from a major concern to a potentially game-losing situation. MaxPax far too greedy behind this. He far underestimated the commitment that Solar was going to make. Solar was already headed in this direction. MaxPax just pushed him even further down the road. And now, 5 probes, 7 probes dead. Still not real economic damage, but the Zerglings don't stop coming. And they don't stop coming, continually streaming across the map. He's got 51 Zerglings and counting. He's already lost dozens. The robotics facility is going to be taken out 80% of the way to completing an Immortal, and never will see the light of day. Gonna juggle some of the Ravagers in, and the creep is now almost at the ramp. The Queens don't have much energy, but them existing is zoning out the Oracles. He's got a Triumvirate in the main. The third base is hardened against attack, but the natural was actually the softest point, and he's easily able to break through. The Nexus, the shields are stripped away. The Queen's trying to pin cushion. There's no more energy on the Oracles. Another one of their rare but relevant weaknesses. The Nexus is torn apart. The recall is very much on cooldown. The Archons are going to try to break out. The Queens will spread. The Oracle's also here, as MaxPax kind of scrambling. Definite select all army usage. The +1 Blink Stalkers, and trying to target those Archons. But it looks like, once again, MaxPax comes under direct and nearly devastating attack from Sola. He's got creep overrunning his natural. In fact, he's trying to backspread right now, which is considered a dick move in most cultures. But a revelation from the Oracles finding some purpose in life. It's going to be... He actually canceled the 5th Oracle, realizing that 4 is probably enough. Solar stopped attacking. But I want to make it clear. The attack has not stopped. He has not built a single drone. He's built more roaches and ravagers. He wants to crush the counterattack and restart the momentum. Because digging yourself out of this sort of technological hole is, even for the race that technically has developed burrow, effectively impossible. Another taxi is being morphed. And a second round is loaded up. The Zerglings, you know, to be fair, MaxPax can't be expected to hold the non-existent wall that was completely torn down. It held for enough time for MaxPax to slap together a defense. And honestly, it isn't a terrible situation for him. He lost 20 probes, which put him about even with Solar. It's just the Roach Ravagers continue producing. Storm is on the way. Again, MaxPax, I think his mistake is almost being on autopilot, if it's a mistake at all. The Queens, and we're walking! Get off my... Brenda, come on. I will not apologize. Okay, I want to apologize. For absolutely... nothing. The Creep Highway has too many queens to fit in a single dropper lord. They have to come up with multiple methods, but I don't know if more lanes will necessarily solve this sort of traffic. The Oracle's very low on energy. Storm is 10 seconds out. +2 weapons as well, helpful, but Storm is the real kicker here. The difference between the Zerg overrunning the base and potentially being whittled down. A couple charge lots on the other side. Everyone clearly distracted. Zerglings in the main. Zealots warped in. The Storms will ward away. The Roaches and Ravagers back off. The Queens will patch some of them up. But more Storms. The Ravagers melting underneath the withering fire. The Archon is evaporated. But still, the sheer biomass of Zerg is comparable with your mother. The third Nexus might be torn down. The Oracle's still very low on energy, just trying to use stasis wards. Another Archon's taken out. And through all the fire and fury, there's not a single drone has been built by Solar for like 6 minutes straight. Not since he lost so many to the Adepts and the Oracles. The Oracles still try to come in. The Queens can target it. He manages to take out 2 more. 4 or 5 Queens still with the push. And it's not over yet. One of them taken out. A second one targeted down. It's +2 attack to +0. So the disparity is dramatic. And the Blink Stalkers are some of the most cost... Well, right now, MaxPax has the theoretical most cost-effective army in the game. Solar still has not built a drone. He's got 4 bases and 44 drones. But MaxPax is holding. The creep continues to spread across various intermittent locations on the map. The Roaches and Ravagers. The Ravagers are needed to add that potential damage. Force the Micro away. Force the Blinks, so that way he can't just stagger. 2 more Archons will be ripped apart before seeing the light of day. The Queen's still stuck. There's still 2 Oracles, so if the Queens go down, the Oracles can swoop in and pretend like they made all the difference. And caught on a single spot without creep! Oh no, MaxPax! Oh, he slipped it in right before the creep spread. And we all know that's when the Zerg is most uncomfortable. The Oracles shivving the Queens in the side from the sky. The Queens are kind of perpendicular with the... Don't worry, don't worry about the geometry. Worry about the results. That's what I have never said. But... well, now what? Solar built 2 more drones. He's building more Roaches and more Ravagers. His best chance is still MaxPax overcommitting. The Zergling sneaking by. These Zergling counterattacks are getting real sad. The Flood has kind of thinned to a trickle. But just threatening the run-bys is still important. Just keeping some of the units back at home, but... he's still just building... he knows. There is no teching up out of this. Solar, do or die. And at this point, it's kind of unclear which one it's going to be. How many Queens? 3 Queens. There's still the 2 Oracles. 19 kills, 6 kills on the other. And, well, it's the Storm. Either the Storms Category 5 Stormfront just completely shuts down the attack. Or he whittles them down and he removes the Templar. He draws out the Storms. It could really go either way. MaxPax has half the army supply. But, Templar are certainly more supply efficient than Roaches, despite being the same amount. That Storm doing apocalyptic damage. Barely killed anything. Softened up half the army. More Storms warding away the Roaches. He's gonna lose another Templar. The Oracles move in. A Tourniquet. The Storms, a much better force field on the ramp. And Solar driven back by the Psionic Storm yet again. The Zerglings get into the main. And again, 49 probes dead. Still though, Solar, he's got 50 more supply, but MaxPax just refuses to let him use it. The battering ram is just not the right tool. He's got a sledgehammer. He needs a quantum confabulator. Or Ultralisks. And both are about equally likely, I think, at this point. Though, the Templar to the south and the rest of the army to the north, but with just 3 Storms, it's still an existential threat. That's so many Roaches and Ravagers. They're all softened up. He tries to throw out Corrosive Bile, but it's more of a prayer than a tactic. MaxPax is so calm under pressure. 2 games in a row, he's taking critical damage. And now it feels like 2 games in a row. He's weathered until Storm. Like, the Phoenix's last game to eventually pick apart the Mutas, and the Storms to hold the line. Solar, one last gasp. There's the Oracles are coming across. There are no Spore Crawlers to stop them. He's going to be on top of the probes, but every drone is going to die at the 4th base. The Queens are patching it up. And there's still a chance. He's got 2 more Storms in reserve, maybe 3. Energy recharge, still 30 seconds out. But the Storms are softening it all up. He's got to be careful. He pushes his own Archons into it, but Archons have plenty of HP to weather it. And the Archons themselves are helping out. The Oracles are coming back. Collapses in, blinks to the side. Queen's caught in front, and GG! MaxPax again holds the line and drives the Zerg back. The line definitely erased in some points. Redrawn, erased again. But eventually, solid enough. As Solar, for the 2nd game in a row, just committed. And it's not necessarily the wrong call. For us mere mortals, for every Zerg player except for, I think there's one, trying to both catch up economically and compete with Protoss tech is a lot to ask. That's how I'll phrase it. But, and Solar clearly thinks it was too much to ask. So, he leans on the Roaches and Ravagers. And if MaxPax had not near perfectly managed his Oracles, his Warpins, Warpin location is also very important. His Storms, like choosing to get it. Again, he canceled his tech in order to put together a defense and then brought it back later. And again, it pays off. If Solar had like 5 more drones, if he only lost 6 drones instead of like 10 to the Adepts, so Solar right now, you see that drone kind of sitting there. That's not a mistake. He built more drones when he saw there wasn't a probe on the way. He had the drone down there in case a probe decided it was just gonna get all nosy like they always do, despite not having a nose. It's not about the geometry. But it's a sign. Because I need to stop this tangent. But let's calm down. It's been a day, all right? I mean, it's only been like 30 minutes for you, but it's been a day. And Solar clearly... Still, I don't want to mischaracterize it. Both these games have been razor thin. a few more seconds on either side getting damage done in both games, Solar wins. It is so close to MaxPax completely collapsing. We've seen it so many times before where the Protoss just can't slap together a defense. They have all the good units, but they're not in the right place without enough of them. The real art form is putting it all together. That's why the death ball is so dangerous. But Overlord gonna spot. There is no pervert pillar on this map. Well, there is, but it's a little further out. Kind of conspicuous near the whatever's going on here. I don't. A purple pond. Why does it turn purple when it comes out? It's blue here, but it's purple. Terrazine. Delectable. Stargate. Unrelated. Adept headed across. The shades even are mapped out. He wants to shove his ethereal face. Oh, he goes with the back shade, which only a little riskier and might kill a drone or two. So sometimes just send the shade in to see how many drones they have, get any other info, force the Zerglings to at least threaten it, and then just keep the adept safe. But you could also just kind of casually stroll by and shade back as a kind of fadeaway. Somewhat puns, honestly heavily intended. Oracles in production, and that's how you wall, hero. I was every time I watch hero or rogue, not rogue. Who am I think? SOS. Yeah, it makes sense in my head, but still weird to say rogue a day. But every time I watch hero slap down a pylon and then just have two gaps in the wall, not just the big one that he almost always has. I don't know. We can't. It's just like it is both just like and completely, utterly different than Serral for Zerg, hero for Protoss. All right, Serral for Zerg is I'm you, but better. In every way. Almost every way, maybe. Whereas hero is, I'm not you. No one knows who I am. I don't even know who I am. MaxPax, on the other hand, has quite a, somewhat ironically, a solid identity. And has a very good idea of what he wants and what he needs at each point. And honestly, I've been casting too many hero games, and I keep not giving him the benefit of the doubt. MaxPax clearly, and MaxPax is well known for being one of the biggest, I mean, it kind of makes sense, but one of the biggest ladder grinders in the game. We're talking thousands upon thousands of games per season. Probably 50 to 80 a day sometimes. Maybe not on tournament days when he's busy alongside Hero and Clem playing like 6 tournaments in a day, but, you know. Like, that is... It's hard work, and it's probably the best way to have that baseline, that foundation. And it leads to these very clear flowchart sort of scenarios that we're seeing from him. Like, if I lose my natural to a queen drop and there's creep there, but I still have my third with some defenses, then minor counterattack and go storm. Like, Aspire. Solar's like, the mutas were more fun. All right, Roach Ravager languishing in the storm. It's kind of tripping over one another. Not as fun. Losing 100 mutas and embarrassing Winter when he can't count the muta count right. Ooh, rough sentence, but also fun. An Archon drop in this economy? Huh. So he goes charge into Archon drop, which this might not be an Archon drop. Well, he's going to drop the Archons. But that is but the tip of the iceberg. The tip of the spear. But the charge lots will be spearing through. The Queen's very much in position to deal with this. The Roach count is serviceable. The Archons are doing terrible, terrible damage. Meanwhile, the Zerglings caught in stasis as they tried to counterattack. 5 mutas on the way. Will he spot the Spire before the mutas? It's looking likely. 1 more pixel! He's so close. Like, literally. Now, the mutas are going to come out, and the value of scouting the Spire has gone down already dramatically, but every second counts, especially considering he's building a second robo. This is made to bait out a whole bunch of roaches. And how do you kill a whole bunch of roaches? Storm and Immortals. It wasn't a trick question. The mutas are going to counterattack. Probably the right call. If he uses the mutas to kill the Warp Prism, then he still has to spend about 30 seconds getting across the map. And by that point, now their cannon's on the way. Storm is done. He's not going to risk it. Merges Archons. Going to go for the probes while he can. There is no blink, and that's a huge deal. No blink, and some Phoenixes in production. No cannon in the main. The Immortals select all army for sure. MaxPax clearly scrambling back. This was such a silly time to go mute as it became effective again. Well, they're like, well, it's any time. Is that not a bad time to go mutas? Some might argue that. And it's a good argument. But 8 probes dead. And now here's the difference between this and game number 1. MaxPax does not have blink to even sort of stall this out. He can't go on offense. Solar has 86 droughts. Oh my god. And going on 5 bases. And he's getting the rich Vespine base, which means he's going to lose. He's going to make so many mutas. Contaminate on Phoenix production and delaying even 1 Phoenix. The delayed production will certainly pay dividends. Solar has his best chance to break through. And he needs to. Because otherwise he just loses the series, so... The muta count, 25, and he's only lost 4 so far. Oh, come on, bro. No, it's bugged. They're... How would he have lost them? No Phoenixes and just Archons? You'd have to be asleep at the wheel. But now with a few Phoenixes, the mutas will be thinned out somewhat. But already a dozen probes dead. The main base got it. The roaches and lings at the front. The solar. Well, now really making good on that count. 200 supply. He's adding corruptors. All right, he's not a one-trick pony. This pony has several tricks. Now, some might argue they are somewhat related to that first trick. But legally, they're distinct. Corruptors, a different unit, a different purpose, though very much working in tandem with the mutas. And since MaxPax is essentially stuck on 3 bases, he can just sledgehammer him with near infinite units. Even if all these mutas spontaneously implode, which the Archons could definitely facilitate, he can build another round. The income gap is concerning, to say the least. It is currently 3,000 minerals and 1,600 gas a minute to less than half that on both fronts. 2 more hatcheries on the way, 9 more mutas. Got a Congress of Corruptors out in front to block any sort of activities for dealing with the mutas. A lot of obstructionism here, but... Now, MaxPax still, he has his flow chart, he has his plan. Will it be enough? The mutas flapping around, the Corruptors boxing out. And 7 more on the way. MaxPax, get as close to maxing out, packs your bags, send it across the map. But he's running out of options. The muta count is too damn high. Solar has too much economy. It's getting less and less likely he'll ever be able to move out at all. So he just sends what he can forward, cuts off some of the reinforcements. The roaches and lings, the Corruptors, trying to... Are we actually base trading? Well, he's going to try to collapse on the army on the 3rd base. And for now... Well, the 4th will be easily cut down. The drones will evacuate. The spines! The backbone of the defense! going to have a dozen spine crawlers, and he's just knocking down the phoenixes one by one. He's got +1 of all the upgrades besides Carapace, because, let's be honest, units, they hit so hard. +1 Carapace not going to matter for the Lings and Roaches. The Muta's just cutting through the cannons, and they're healing. That's what they do when they don't get cut out of the sky immediately. The Immortals are busting through the spine crawlers, but the Zerglings are mucking them up, and every second counts. And honestly, he doesn't have that much anti-air left over. There are still 32 Mutas in the sky and enough Corruptors to zone out the Phoenixes. MaxPax is falling apart. He still has enough army to be dangerous on Solar's doorstep, but at some point, the Mutas are going to come back home. And eventually, they might not need to. Well, also, MaxPax is running out of buildings. There's a storm on the Mutas that seems to hit more Stalkers. The Corruptors, it's 56-to-1 workers, which is, well, not great. GG! Solar strikes back with a much more comprehensive Muta all-in. It wasn't all-in, but he put his chips on the right table there. That makes sense. Solar just floods with Mutas and Zerglings. And MaxPax, he tried the Archon drop, and if you don't go Blink, there's a reason. Now, I'd be like, well, every game we see the same build. He tried something new. 1, not hero. And 2, there's a reason we see Oracle into Blink so often. It's because it limits the Zerg option so drastically. A very narrow range of sometimes nothing at all. If you go outside of it, you might... It's high risk, high reward. He built the Oracles, but then he followed up with the Archon drop, which means he didn't have that sort of middle ground option with the Blink Stalkers to keep the pressure on. And in the specific scenario of Solar rushing Mutas, well, it clearly did not pay off. Even though still... Did he cancel drones? He canceled an Overlord in order to get that hatch. It's always very interesting to see the philosophy here. So Cyril will just take the 3rd. He's got a few builds where he will try to take the hatch early, but he'll just take the 3rd. Solar went through the effort and the expense of canceling his Overlord to get his hatch before the probe. And he had his first Overlord in position. He actually hung out for a bit, which is what they do, but in order to make sure the probe wasn't coming in, or it was. So you don't just lose the money and the time. You also lose the larva, which is unique to Zerg. You don't get that larva back, all right? That it doesn't go back into the egg. That is not how anything works. So, or it doesn't unegg, well, no, it's only going to get worse. Anyways, he scrambles one of them, gets the money back, gets the hatch. But is it worth it? Solar clearly thinks so. We saw what happened when the Adepts got in. And that has been an existential threat for over 10 years of Legacy of the Void. The Adepts, if you look the wrong way or you're slightly out of position for just 3-4 seconds, the Adepts shade in. And it doesn't take much to kill a critical mass of drones. Let alone the Oracle also existing, threatening sometimes simultaneously, especially if they know what they're about. So, I don't think it's worth it. As we've already heavily established, I'm no mathematician. But I don't think it's worth it to cancel an Overlord, to so religiously get the hatchery at the expense of your early game economy. But again, it's kind of it's almost a philosophical thing. It's clearly what Solar's more comfortable with, but it's also I'm just going in circles, but it's so uncomfortable to deal with Adepts and Oracles just in general. So he's chosen to have a lighter economy in a more defensible position, as opposed to a potentially better economy, but with a lot more weak points. That is why the probe is sent out at the beginning of the game. That is why it's such a big give and take on whether or not you're going to block the hatch. Because the amount of damage these just first 2 units from Protoss can do is game ending. Your heart's not in it. Yeah, me too. I know. Good night, sweet prince. Moracle's on the way. It's been 2. Every game he hasn't ended up losing them or been forced to deal with an all-in. So a lot of asterisks there, but that seems to be the baseline. Twilight Council behind. Evolution Chamber for Solar. In position to kind of choke off potential adepts sneaking in, I think. Make sure they can't get behind the mineral line easily. Oracle gets a kill. The Queens will politely, arguably, yet firmly ask it to leave. No Forge out of MaxPax. Is this another Templar Archives build? Usually if you're going to go Blink, the +1 is more favored. It's still Blink, but maybe a bit more aggressive. And, like, again, if it was Hero, we'll see what happens. But MaxPax has a very rigorous method to the... No. I don't... Forge is on the way now, but MaxPax assassinating one of the Queens. Solar will be able to get his 4th base. But the question is, does and if he cut drone. Wow. If and when he cuts drones. Does and if. Oof. Concerning. The Stalkers with Oracles escorting. Effectively safe until they get pretty deep onto the creep, as the Oracles will easily cut through any Zerglings that the Stalkers can't handle. Templar Archives. Baneling Nest is on the way. Suspiciously quick. I'm not sure if he wasn't at... Oh, it's a Hydro Lane bang time. All right. This is a mid-game timing, of course. We'll see how hard he's able to hit it. Hydra Den immediately after the lair finishes. There will be a Templar Archives. And likely by the time anything comes across the map, there will be Storm. Considering he's starting it before the Hydra Den is done. But again, Solar is banking up for a ton of lair tech unit. He's got 500 in the bank. Gonna go up to 70-something drones. I guess he doesn't have to go all in with the Hydras, but I'm making my prediction. If we see Baneling speed, that's a guaranteed all... Well, almost guaranteed all in. Whereas no Baneling speed means he wants to save the gas to tech up. Get as much out as possible. The most dangerous time is getting those initial Hydras. You need 10-something Hydras. How convenient, but in order to deal with the Stalkers. Otherwise, it's still not enough to reliably push them back. Storm almost done. The Zerglings triggering every stasis ward, but wait, there's more. Just continually adding him on. MaxPax so diligent with those oracles. And even though Solar knows they're there, the amount of extra time it takes to defuse the situation, if he misses one, then, especially off of creep, then MaxPax can just turn the fight immediately. So, trying to pursue off of creep is usually a fool's errand. Couple spawns on the way. 77, 80 drones. No infestation pit, but Baneling speed. Solar... gonna try to smash MaxPax's bases. He can easily... Oh, no! The Zerglings were too thin, but the Hydras were dummy thick. Oh, it's a disaster. getting a chunk of the Hydra's cut off. Not a huge deal right now. The Baneling speed finishes at a fortuitous timing. And MaxPax doesn't quite nail the warping. But he holds the line. 6 probes dead for about 10 Banelings is a decent trade. And a fleet beacon is on the way. $19 Banelings. A mothership is likely the choice. A mothership on her own, enough to cover most of the army, literally and figuratively. Active cloaking, time warp, and also, honestly, the damage itself, now that it can attack 4 targets at once. Solar keeps getting dragged back. He already has all his upgrades. He wants to be attacking right now. But every second he gets dragged back, every unit he pulls away, the Spinecrawler placement is really good, but is another second that MaxPax builds up energy. It's got multiple storms. The Banelings can only take a few seconds. A couple seconds, really. And the stasis will box out. So we're trying to find an angle, but MaxPax way too acutely aware of it. The Banelings rolling around, the probes on the run at the last moment. The Banelings... Oh, and he... This is just pinpoint perfect. Well, again, Solar's still maxed out. MaxPax is running out of Storm. Solar's not running out of units. There's one more Storm ready. Throws it out there. The Nexus will fall. I keep giving MaxPax so much credit, but Solar has plenty of credit to pay for more Hydras. Oh no, but part of the reason MaxPax was struggling to defend, he sent out a huge warp and a charge lots. Was thinned out, I assume, by the spine crawlers. But he has to drag back the Hydras. 8 drones dead. But the 4th base went down. And that means Solar still maintains a massive economic lead, even if he doesn't have that many more workers. And he does. A dozen more. Another stasis. The mothership. He doesn't have an overseer. Active cloaking. Oh, no. Oh, wait. The overseer. But still, the time warp. He could target it down the storms. He can't wade through that. 2 Tempests on the way. A lot of long-range damage options. No storms available, but coming online now. The Archons are holding. A few more pin-cushioned. And the Immortals living up to their name. 18 kills, 5 kills, but the Zerglings in the natural. Again, he's broken through. But how much can stream it? Oh, charge lots in the 3rd, charge lots in the natural, charge lots eviscerating the 4th. And Solar. His attack is strong, but he might have no home to come back to. 18 drones dead. A surgical counterattack. He didn't commit that much. Honestly, only losing 30 charge lots so far. Most of them in the counterattacks. And the Tempest existing... there's a Spire on the way, but Solar's gone from a 10-worker lead to a 10-worker deficit. A few Corruptors. Corruptors are a liability. Even if you get them with against the Tempest, 3 or 4 Corruptors are just a waste of money. MaxPax is controlling this so well, and Solar is just continually banging his head against a Hogwarts wall here. The spell casting. MaxPax with a confident 3 to Solar's more rough and tumble 1. Bringing us to a very special anti-spoiler game. I think I like this one. And hopefully you thought Solar would break through. And honestly, I did for a few moments there. But Solar and MaxPax. Solar, unfortunately, getting the worst end of the trades, and MaxPax holding strong. But, you know, that probably makes them a pretty good team. As, apparently, I don't know if this was before or after, but at a similar time, they teamed up to play in one of Uthermal's 2v2 circuit cups. So, shout out to MaxPax and Solar, putting aside their differences and recognizing the other strengths against the notable Europeans on the other side. The captain in the teal, it's Harstem, and the creator of the German taxi build, and so many more. We have Lambo. A 2v2 showdown. Best of one. But I noticed it looking through the games they played. And I'm like, wait a second. Why are you showing up in a game? But not against one another. And here we are. Actually kind of perfect. We'll see if they have what it takes. I believe they've actually been playing 2v2 together in these tournaments. So, Solar speaks really good English of the Korean players. Most of the Korean players speak English, or at least understand it, but would probably struggle to communicate. And MaxPax also, from what we've heard, speaks good English for a Dane, but he's actually done commentary on his stream. He streams. I believe his stream name is MaxPax or something, and also has actually commentated or gone over things with Pig and stuff like that. So we've heard him, or someone who claims to be him. But so what I'm saying is, it kind of makes sense of all the Korean players who would play with a non-Korean player in these tournaments to still be able to coordinate. It'd be Solar. So. But we will see. A Zealot, and believe it or not, a Stargate. Honestly, in 2v2, it's a mirror matchup, by the way, here. I expect to see very similar builds that we saw in 1v1. MaxPax, with a notable exception, getting the Stargate before the expansion, so likely going to be laying on the aggression. Max Soul? Soul Packs? Solar Max. I kind of like that. Solar Max. We'll workshop it. See if it has a good mouthfeel. Not going to ask the Protoss. I have no mouth, but I must balance wine. Is it Imba or do I suck? Anyways. A Baneling nest on the way for Lambo. Notably, a third base for Solar instead. So Harstem took a much quicker second base, and he's just getting more gates. So it looks like a two-base timing out of the northern players, the Europeans, whereas Solar Max. I already screwed it up. Really suffering today. It's been a day. Like and subscribe if you sometimes are having a day. And then you go on camera and try to talk for over an hour straight and keep it relatively straight. I know it's hard looking at after getting all your settings reset and having to do all that again, and that taking longer than this cast is taking. But I digress. Here comes the Adept and Stasis. Harstem triggers it, a Queen to protect. Meanwhile, on the other side, these Stalkers and Zerglings of Harstem and Lambo up against the Zerglings and Oracle. Wait, whose Stalkers are these? Wait, no, they all look the same. Those are all the same Stalkers. The lighting was different. Knocks down the Oracle. Banelings from Lambo, zoning out the Zerglings, but great wall-off here out of Solar. Gonna target down some of the Queens. Unfortunately, not great enough. They just come around the back. The Spine Crawler is melted. He actually canceled at the last second, gets a little bit of money back. MaxPax has no units right now, which is not great. He's trying to pull it together. A Void Ray comes out. The Oracle's on the other side of the map. The Oracle racks up 0 kills. I thought he got some of them, but no. Lambo has only 22 drones in total. He's pretty much all in here. Solar's at 30. MaxPax at 24 probes, mostly because everything at the natural was slaughtered. The Void Ray relying on the shield batteries. The Queen's pulled off the line. Zergling slaying Zergling. Stalker slaying Stalker. The civil war between the Protoss and the Zerg continue. As both sides with similar compositions, the Defender's advantage is good. The Queens, are they good enough? The shield batteries are drained of energy, but wait, there's more! A shield energy recharge, 2 more shield batteries behind. The Stalker lives for a few extra volleys. A second Void Ray comes out. The Queen's starting to dwindle. More Banelings on the way for both sides. Targets down some Stalkers, lights up a Void Ray. Another Stalker's chased down. And for now, Solar Max will hold. Lambstim, on the other hand, Harlem Oh, that's right there. Harlem will continue the aggression. Only 22 drones, 42 probes for Hearthstone. So most of the economy on the team, he can of course trade, send some resources to his teammate, though technically the timer I believe is 7 minutes, so actually he can't for a minute further. Lambo just lings and banes, keeping the aggression on. It's the same sort of scenario writ large, where if you don't get damage done, it's going to be very hard to transition out. But they're going to try anyways. 4 Zerglings in the main, not just killing drones, but getting the scout that Lambo indeed doesn't have anything else. 21 drones and 45 probes against 31 and 35. A much more balanced economy for Solar Max. The creep, it's friendly creep. There's no such thing. Well, it has a friendly vibe to it. You know they don't discriminate with the creep. That is weird, actually. Why is that? No one knows. They never cared about team games. Neither do I, to be honest. Sorry. Zerglings caught by a baneling on the way. And Lambo is trying for +1 melee attack. There's Zergling speed and warp gate, and that's it for either side. But blink for both the Protoss. Solar has a lair nearly completed. And really, Hydras or Mutas could be a deadly choice here. And Solar loves his Mutas. He's gonna go for him again, and this time he has MaxPax by his side instead of opposite. I still love how they play together on a team, despite facing in tournaments. I mean, it makes sense. It's not that crazy. In fact, it's just efficient. A Shrine to Dark on the way, Hearthstone. A bit of a desperation move. I think Harlem realizing the economy isn't there. Lambo does not have a lair. The follow-up all-in is on the way. Solar trying to bank up some money for Mutas, but worrying about tomorrow might cost him today. That's a lot of banelings underneath. No speed for either side. The Stalkers blinking back. 2 charged up Void Rays. Might be able to target him down. The banelings boxing out. An existential threat to everyone. The no Zergs land in the center as the banelings just kind of staring each other down while the Stalkers fire over the top. Gonna try to get some Zerglings out in front, but the banelings will ward it away for now. Meanwhile, Zerglings darting by. The pings come out. The entire army scrambles to defend, which actually opens up an opportunity to get some damage done. 8 Mutas on the way. Hearthstone kind of squanders that opportunity on an extractor, though. Best case, he gets 5 or 6 drones. Meanwhile, MaxPax blinks in. A whole lot of Zerglings from Lambo. And he hasn't built drones for a while yet. 30 drones! That is an unhealthy economy there, but it still technically exists. Meanwhile, being chased down. The Dark Shrine is done. The Mutas are above the field. The DTs! And the DT's the choice. He has an Oracle. He has to energy recharge in order to get a Revelation. But that won't be the end of it. Did any other... A DT in the main. Hearthstone's Dark Templar slicing through. The move he desperately needed. And now, wait a second. MaxPax losing probes. He has to keep his units back at home. This completely blunted the aggressive potential of the Mutas. Any edge they might have had has been whittled away. And Hearthstone never built a Stargate, notably. And Lambo doesn't even have a lair, so he's reliant on spore crawlers. He has to cut into his already minimal economy in order to build spores, as he's the one on the more painful flank. Meanwhile, the Stalkers zoning out for the stasis. The Mutas trying to cut off some of the reinforcements. Will thin out the Zerglings before they can get close to the Stalkers. The Stalkers on either side jousting for position. The last Void Ray will actually survive. The Mutas engaged. A single Archon. Zerglings on top of everything. Shield batteries helping to patch things up. Shield batteries don't work both ways, but only that. They can tell the difference. The creep can't. Meanwhile, the Muta count is getting so damn high, and MaxPax has bought enough time for that to happen. There are 16 Mutas more in production. The economy's still very rough across the board. but definitely a huge advantage for Solar Max. Meanwhile, a ping to the north, clearly intending on attacking. Still dueling with the Stalkers. Harstom has no upgrades for his Stalkers. About to finish +1. MaxPax already has +1 done. He has a third Nexus, though Harstom already has that Nexus to the north as well. So, the economies... It's still desperate for Team Harlem. Solar Max is taking control of most of the map. The mutas unchecked, as Lambo, at this point, his best chance is... Well, he doesn't have a lair. They have to go all in. It's just a very long-winded all in. An all in nonetheless. We're 11 minutes in. He does not have a lair. He has 27 drones. All right, he's trying to build a Bugatti army on a civic budget. But Harstom's going to have to cover the gaps. The DTs bought some time. But was it enough? The Muta's cutting off the reinforcements. The Stalkers try to close in. The Zerglings out in front. But the army supply just simply isn't there. The Muta's thinning out the Lings. The Stalker count is not enough to tilt the scales. The charge lots come in. The momentum has shifted. And Solar Max will reign supreme in the skies and on the ground, by their powers combined, prevailing. And, well, despite the fact Solar unable to find success with that same strategy against MaxPax, with MaxPax on the other hand, victory. Hopefully you enjoyed our extra special bonus game. Hopefully this was not as much of a disaster of a cast as it felt to me. It's been a day. Hopefully it didn't literally and metaphorically sound terrible, both in the sense, if there are any audio settings that seem way off, that I either because the audio is completely off or I just don't hear. And Jimmy is effectively deaf and arguably blind. Let me know. And some of the video stuff, but I don't think that's as broken. That's more obvious. But either way. Still, a hectic and fun sort of game. Set of games. And it's time to ask if you got the means of motivation to maybe check out Patreon, YouTube membership, but I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. So thank you for watching. Thank you to our meal tier patrons, Big Jake, Devin, Dork, Kate, Mario, Sue. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't yet checked out this video, Jimmy picked it out just for you. I hope to see you next time. Good luck, have fun, stay chill. What a disaster.